With the silver bordered project heating up, I've decided to make a top un-10 list of cards that would be played heavily in the Commander format were these cards pseudo-legal to play. The August 14th post by Jim LePage reads that they're going to have 3 categories for these cards. One of the categories is these cards are fine, and they could mechanically exist, and they sometimes already do mechanically exist in the format. 2, these cards could be fine if you're willing to play along, so they're not fully supported by the Magic rule set, but are intuitive and otherwise non-problematic. And 3, these are not okay, and they would likely be banned in Commander in a hypothetical world where they would be legal. Negative play patterns, and so forth. So that is kind of the criteria that I'm going by on my top 10 list as well. So just before I get into that, I'm going to go to the channel analytics. And again, thanks to everybody who subscribed. We're on an upward trend. I know it's been a week. I was out of town, lost my voice briefly. So I'm back on it. So I'm making some more videos here. Let's try to get to 2,000 by the end of the month would be nice. It's mid-August here, so that'd be great. I got to make more videos, but we'll see how we do. So before we get into it, I'm going to do some more honorable mentions on the unset top 10. So honorable mention, Clock Napper. This card, you could blink and flicker it. It could be pretty toxic because you could steal phases from players, and so they can't play the game. So this could be a little bit toxic, but very strong. More or less, add or subtract 1 from a number or a number word on a spell or a permanent. This could be good with certain removal spells and cards with a 1 activation cost like Voltaic Key, but a little bit niche. Soul Performer. This one I almost put in the top 10. This is essentially a mana dork that it can always tap for 2 if you have lands, and then it can also tap for like 4, 6, so on and so forth if you have more mana, and then it can combo with cards like Kiki Jiki that and do some crazy stuff there, but not quite in my top 10. This will be, I think, number 11 for me. Krark's Other Thumb. It's already printed as Krark's Thumb. A little bit of samey same. Summon the Pack is a very strong card that I think could be very good in an silver bordered project format. However, it costs 8 mana, and therefore it is not on the list. There's another card similar to it that is on the list and also in the thumbnail. Organ Harvest I mentioned in the previous unset video. This card is very strong. You can make a lot of mana pretty quickly, sacrifice a whole bunch of creatures, make a whole bunch of mana. However, it's a sorcery, and it's kind of a one-time effect, very limited to certain decks. So this is kind of like top 11, top 12 type of card for me personally. The Grand Calcutron. This card could just be a negative play pattern. I don't know if it's like quite strong enough either, but it's a very interesting design, and certain brewers would really go ham with this card. Rules Lawyer. This card might actually be banned if they brought in the silver border cards to like be officially pseudo legal. Then I think Rules Lawyer might be one of the cards that could be banned, because it's just it is literally a Judge Tower style card where like you need to know every rule. You need to have a judge like looking at your game essentially to play this, and it's actually incredibly broken. So there we go. Getting into the top 10. So starting at number 10, we have Topsy Turvy. This is also in the thumbnail. And as you can see here, this is the reprinted, I believe, the unsanctioned version, originally from Unhinged. Let's pull that up here. So Unhinged, Topsy Turvy. The phases of each player's turn are reversed. The phases are in reverse order. Yeah, in reverse order. End, post-combat main, combat, pre-combat main, and beginning, which is untap, upkeep, draw, but in reverse order. And it's a 3-mana blue enchantment. If there are more than 2 players in the game, the turn order is reversed. So immediately when you play this card, it reverses the turn order, and the player to your left is essentially getting a turn skipped. Like it's very toxic. It's kind of like almost like a time sifter style card. This card works very well with flicker type effects. As you can see, Flicker Wisp, Teferi's Time Twist. What you do is you play it, and then actually this reverses your own turn order. So if you have Vigilance creatures, you can then attack again. You get another combat phase, and then you draw a card again. So it comes in, you draw a card right away. And then you untap at the end, so all your stuff is untapped at the end of your turn. And so you flicker it at the start of the next player's turn on your right, which is their end phase. So their turn is done. They're on the end phase. It's done. It's flickered. It's gone. So you can flicker it or bounce it with a card like Vidalcan Mastermind. And so this card might be a little bit toxic as well. I don't know if they would fully allow it, but it's certainly a very strong design. And as you can see here, there's combos with it. You can have Sundial, the infinite style effects, and like kind of make your turn last forever or take a lot of turns. So Topsy Turvy is number 10 on the list here. Going to number 9, we have R&D's Secret Lair, and on the right-hand side here, these are all the cards I could find that combine with R&D's Secret Lair. So this is a legendary land. Play cards as written. Ignore all errata. Add 1, tap, add 1 to your mana pool. This one is also a questionable, like, would it be allowed if it were unbanned, if the sets were unbanned? But I think there's enough, like, the new cards that come out seldom get errata, so you'd be relegated to a set of, like, old cards. It's time would tell how busted this would be, but like it's a land that could go in any deck. So first of all, it works with companions. Your companions, if you have a companion, it's free to just cast it. You don't have to pay the 3 mana companion cost. Second of all, it works with Marath, Will of the Wild. This card is errata to say X cannot be 0, as you can see here on the bottom part. In the original printing, it did not say X can't be 0, so what you can do is you can make a bunch of 0/0 elemental tokens and have like Impact Tremors style effects and just win the game that way. So that's pretty busted there. Then you have Walking Atlas. That's not really a big deal. It just doesn't have a creature type. Time Vault, I don't know if this really works, but it's like a heavily errated card. I think it's just the same, so that might be a misnomer. Nissaran Free is just kind of an oddball. It's like kind of green. It has like a green border, so would this be a blue-green? I don't know. That's just kind of a silly one. Abeyance, I don't know if this is actually an errata or like a rules change style thing, but like it essentially would stop your opponents from doing things on their turn. Oh yeah, like that aren't mana abilities. So like I think what this would do is like they can't tap their land, so you're kind of like time walking players for 2 mana. This would be really strong. Orcish Oriflame, original printing was 2 mana instead of 4, not a big deal. Cyclopean Tomb is free, 0. There's no mana cost in the alpha version. This is pretty funny. I don't know if it's very good. It can turn lands into swamps, and then it has like a convoluted mess that removes the swamp tokens from it. Pretty much an oddball there. Orcish Artillery, 2 instead of 3 mana. Portuguese Foil Braids is only 3 mana with R&D Secret Lair, so dust these off if you have them. Moloku Spanish edition makes 2/2 tokens instead of 1/1s. Lifeline, this works with discarding like Faithless Looting effects, so whenever a creature is put into a graveyard and a creature is in play, return that creature from a graveyard to play at end of turn. The errata is if another creature is on the battlefield, whenever a creature dies, not when it's put into a graveyard, but whenever it dies. So this would be wild. Like you could discard cards and put them into play directly. So this is like very strong. So yeah, R&D Secret Lair could be banned. It's really good. Sonic Burst, you play it. You could just discard your whole hand and deal 4 times the number of cards in your hand. And so it's not an additional cost. It just says discard a card at random. I don't know if that's like a rules thing or an errata thing, but either way, it's pretty strong. Candelabra of Tawnos. So the mono artifacts, all of them, were like the rules of the mono artifact were that you had to tap it to activate it, but they don't say it in the text box. So if we're going by the text box, you just pay X to untap X lands. And so you make a crap ton of mana with that. Carpet of Flowers, it's on all of your main phases. Power Surge, tons of damage to everybody. Icy Manipulator does not force itself to tap, so you can just stacks the hell out of people for as much mana as you have. Fire Breathing is permanent. Zodiac Dragon is similar to the other card that discards, and so you can just discard it and bring it back. Lotus Veil, you can immediately tap it, so you play it and then tap it for 3 like a ritual style. Same for the Sun-Scorched Ruins. Island Fish Draconis is really funny because you can fetch it with island fetching because it's an island fish. So it just comes into play like, Misty Rainforest, Island Fish Draconis. There you go. Ruck Egg, you can discard to make tokens. Lion's Eye Diamond, I think the original printing was kind of an oddball. Like you sacrifice it. I think there's a way like in the rules to where you can just like make the mana and do some crazy stuff with that. Hostage Taker, this is a pretty famous one. ETBs, exile target artifact or creature and do a thing. So you could ETB and target itself, and if you have 2 of them, I think you create like an infinite loop, and it's crazy like that. Invert is permanent effect, and this one, I don't know why I pulled up Floral Spasm, but there you go. So here we go. Let's change some of these over to make it more appealing. If I can actually get that to work. There we go. Okay. So R&D Secret Lair. That one took a while. Whew, here we go. Magical Hacker. This is also in the thumbnail. So change to 2 mana, 1/2. You can pay a blue. Change the text of target spell or permanent by replacing all instances of a plus with minus and vice versa until end of turn. So this is really great with especially minus X effects. So plus X turns into removal. and minus X turns into pump. So with Toxic Deluge, you pay X life, and you pump all creatures plus X until end of turn. So you can pay like 20, 30 life, pump all your creatures by that much, and then just kill the table with it. Same with Meat Hook Massacre, and it goes down, so on and so forth. This one just has like a lot of things you can do with it. Like Tragic Slip also works, and it's like a 1 mana plus 13. Really, it's just, and yeah, Dead of Winter. This one is also pretty strong, similar to Toxic Deluge if you have that, but Toxic Deluge is like kind of the big one. This one is, maybe I could have put it lower on the list, but I just thought it was like really crazy to turn your minus X's into plus X's. It also works with like specific numbers as well, so anything that's a minus, that's Death Shadow just gets plus X. So 1 mana, 53 Death Shadow, really strong. So that was number 10, 9, 8. That was number 8, Magical Hacker. Here we go. Number 7, we have Far Out. Now, this works with modal spells, as you can see. I'm going to bring up the modal spell tab here on the right. And so it's a 3-mana white enchantment. Rather than choose the indicated number of modes for spells and abilities you control, you may choose one or more modes. You can't choose any mode more than once. So this is really great with cards that I excluded a few that said more than once or more. So like those ones, they don't benefit from Far Out, but cards like Return of the Wild Speaker, you pump and draw. Boros Charm, you choose all of them. Austere Command, all of them. Abrade, you get 3 damage and destroy an artifact. Chroma's Will. Okay. Red Elemental Blast is a better example here. Return to Nature, you get all 3. Rakdos Charm, all 3. Like, this is just really crazy. Far Out incentivizes you to play a bunch of modal spells. A lot of them are pretty heavily played already. Like, Rakdos Charm is already great. If you're in, Mardu, you can just chuck the Rakdos Charm in. Abrade, same thing. And this card is just really, really strong. And the more modal spells they print, the better this card gets. So, yeah, I just think this is super, super strong with all these modal cards. So, yeah, scrolling down, you can see a couple of examples here, especially ones with, like, 3 different modes. You get all 3 modes. Like, it's wild. So, yeah, Far Out. Here we go. That was number 7. And number 6, we have Booster Tutor. This was in the thumbnail. So, Booster Tutor I really love because it's just plain fun. Like, I think this would probably be allowed, like maybe like the number 2 category on their website. But so you open a sealed Magic booster pack, reveal the cards, put one of them in your hand, and then remove that card from your deck before beginning a new game. So this is just like super fun. It's a 1 mana instant. For some reason it's an instant, not a sorcery. But yeah, like you can get a land, you can get an early spell to help you in the game, you can get a late spell to help you in the game. Depending on the booster pack, like you can just like. You can go nuts. So yeah, I love the flavor text on it too. You saved that Urza Saga pack all these years for this? Like, it's just really funny. This creates a ton of stories. This is the spirit of Commander, is Booster Tutor. I love this effect. And there's the expensive ones too, but this one is kind of the iconic one. I just love it. So yeah, and you can put your own boosters, infinite stories to tell from it. This might even be my favorite card on the entire list, but I just think that there are a few other cards that are stronger than it. So going on to number 5 here, we have Selfie Preservation. This is essentially Rampant Growth, and what you do is you have land art in your in your deck with trees on it, and so it's just Rampant Growth. So Rampant Growth is one of the most played cards in Commander, as we can see here on EDH Rec. I'll pull that up here. So Rampant Growth. And this one's a little bit of a boring one, but I mean it's 700,000 decks. So Selfie Preservation would be in almost as many decks. Not literally, but it could be in almost as many decks as Rampant Growth. So this is just overall a very like staple-y card. Next we have number 4, Staying Power. This is a 3-mana white enchantment. There's a little bit of a pattern of 3-mana white enchantments here. And it says, as long as Staying Power is in play until end of turn and this turn effects don't end. This one also is kind of borderline bannable because it's just like wild. Like you have cards that okay, here we go. So on the left hand, let's pull it to the right hand side so we can see it. So cards like Rogue's Path. I mean, Rogue's Path is not a big deal, but Heroic Intervention, you play it. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible permanently as long as Staying Powers in play. That includes Staying Power. So if you play this and then Heroic Intervention, like how is anybody going to do anything to you? It's just wild. Toxic Deluge, like literally a toxic card because all creatures permanently get -X. That's just crazy. And so this one I think actually could be banned. I put it on the list. I didn't actually think how bannable it was before I put it on here, but now that I'm thinking about it, I maybe should have swapped in the the green tapper creature instead. But yeah, explore, you can permanently play extra lands. Just so many cards that like just happen all like casting Wolfrun. Any pump spell is permanent. And so and any removal spell with like a minus or whatever is permanent. And so like it's just wild what you can do with that. So yeah, there's just a few examples given off the top of the head. I mean, yeah, pump spell like Overwhelming Stampede, your creatures permanently get +X+X, for the game or whatever. So Maze of Ith, untap target attacking creature, prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to and dealt by that creature for the rest of the game. Like, yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, staying power I don't think would be allowed. I think this would be one of the no-nos on the rules committee's list here. But either way, it's number 4 on this list. Agree, disagree, let me know in the comments. Number 3 here, Trigger Happy. I just love this card. I don't have any examples for it, but just like literally any card, any permanent on the battlefield, you can trigger it. So it says it's a 2-mana red instant. Choose a triggered ability of target permanent. It triggers. You control that ability. So, you can have like these crazy, like for example, Craterhoof Behemoth. This is already pulled up. You can trigger Craterhoof Behemoth if they attack, and well, I mean, you're probably dead at that point, but pretend you're not dead. You can trigger it, and then you get your own Craterhoof. You can trigger so many different things on the board, and it's just, there's infinite possibilities with Trigger Happy. This one also might be borderline, but I think, yeah, because if you buy it back, you can do some crazy stuff with it, or copy it. You can really do some crazy stuff. It's only 2 mana. You can get some very strong triggers with it. But yeah, I think mostly the power of this card is the surprise factor, because you can surprise your opponents with it and trigger their powerful effects for only 2 mana. Whereas putting it on your own is also strong, but not quite as surprising, I would say. This card is in my Commander cube as well. So in that environment, it's fair, but in the wider world, it could be pretty busted. And yeah, let me know in the comments like what kind of busted things you can do with Trigger Happy. I just know there's so many of them that can happen. So here we go. Going to number 2, we have Watermarket. This card is very funny. It's essentially another Ancient Tomb. It's a soul land, except it does not deal damage to you. And on the left-hand side here, we have all the Watermark cards. And so these Watermark cards would work with Watermarket. So it adds 2 mana to your mana pool. Spend this only to cast spells with watermarks. And I think this Sparkle counts as a watermark. So yeah, according to Scryfall, it does. So yeah, so it's just crazy. It's a soul land. It's 2 mana on a land. And a lot of these are very commonly played cards. There's 3,484 cards with watermarks. Secret Lair cards get watermarks. Special edition cards get watermarks. The only thing I'd say is this might be kind of like a bling, pulling up the ladder, rich person type of card, because you will need cards that are probably foil and probably like special versions in order to use this. And so that's the limiting factor. I suppose people could proxy if they wanted, but this is just overall extremely strong in a generic sense. 2 mana soul land. Really, really good. Sorry, my voice is still a little scratchy here. So here we go. Going to number 1, and the final one here is City of Ass. Now, I don't think you guys expected this one. So this is a land. It comes into play tapped. Add 1 1/2 mana of any one color to your mana pool. So this card, the reason I'm putting it at number 1 is that it would be ubiquitous in Commander if it were legal, because it's another Path of Ancestry style card. It makes any color of mana, and if you can untap it with any untap effect, it will act as essentially 3 mana. So this card is, I would say, better than Watermarket, because you can put it in more decks, and it's just such a staple style card that I had to put it at number 1. I don't think it would be banned on the rules committee's like list here. I think it would be fine if you're willing to play along, maybe number 2. But yeah, this card here is just really, really good. Really, really solid. Helps mana fixing. Any deck that is multicolor would want this, and any deck that can untap lands especially would also want this. So City of Ass is just a great card. It's really silly. I don't know if Wizards wants to reprint this. That's the only issue, and it's $22 right now. So there's kind of a little bit of an issue with that. But yeah, that is my list. City of Ass at number 1. What do you guys think of the top 10 list here? Would you have different cards in your lists? Did I miss any crazy combos or synergies? And do you want to see more of these types of videos in the future? So yeah, let me know in the comments, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time.